The secret of success in early stage investing is to invest behind entrepreneurs who are going to succeed anyway. Your real skill has to be in spotting good people. Is this startup getting natural traction? And if it is getting natural traction, chances are he or she, the founders, they're onto something. Now, natural traction means, the site is getting traffic, or the product is selling, revenue is coming, customers are buying, more and more traffic is coming without them advertising. These are indicators of natural traction.
In any case, the bets that folks like you and I end up making are at a stage where it is 5 people and a dog. That includes the investors, the team, the whole shooting match. And literally, you're bound to run into a downturn, if not at that moment, at some unpredictable time going forward. We can dig into the belief that better companies get started during a recession or stuff. I'm not necessarily sure about that, but the thesis doesn't change in my case.
We are in times which seem similar to what was the case after the dot-com bust. One of the gift of hard times is clarity. And I often say that strategic clarity or problem clarity is one of the biggest assets that a company has. And at this time, I think many startups will have that clarity. They'll know exactly the problem they're solving. We are going to go through difficult economic period. We don't know whether it will be a V recovery, U recovery, L recovery, but a V recovery is very unlikely. And so if you're going to go through a difficult period, then what it does is helps you identify the problem very effectively, right? And I think there's a large number of problems that are waiting to be solved. We are in a problem-rich world.
One thing which you need to do across very clearly is do not compare with US numbers or deals done in the same space when you are trying to do across investments. Each deal is unique. No benchmarks works at seed stage, right? So you need to look at every deal independently.
I think the first reaction to the crisis when the markets also crashed, I think late Feb, early May onward was, there was panic in the market. Some of my customers actually at Hypertrack, had direct impact of, tier 1 VCs, top corporate VCs that withdrew signed term sheets, primarily as a sort of panic of, let me see where this bottoms out. There's a lot of GDP growth expected. We don't know when the peak is going to be. We don't know how long the closure is going to be. And then since then, what's happened is we thought there was a dead cat bounce in the markets, but it seems more of a substantive recovery now. We're pretty much back to the early May levels, and the curve is flattening out. Right now things do seem a little frozen. At the same time, there are entrepreneurs and companies at all stages who are able to close rounds over Zoom calls during this time. Some of them closing substantial rounds at higher, at really good valuations.
It is a demand and supply equation. What all of you build and what all of us build as entrepreneurs fall in the category of a painting by Raza, where only 3 bidders show up. And in the downturn, one of those 3 bidders goes away because and suddenly you find that when only 2 bidders show up instead of 3, prices come down. The role that AR, VR will begin to play, I think we'll see an acceleration. So it is not necessarily, quote unquote, a new space, but it is a space which has not really prospered as much. My suspicion is that it will move much further, much faster. People will proactively invest in the ability to work using remote tools. I personally think that there is an opportunity for India to get into some kinds of outsourcing industries associated with healthcare, which we previously either did not see or that was not happening in large enough. The most obvious example is telemedicine, but I think there will be a whole bunch of other examples that I don't have the imagination to even see what they are. And that is also going to be driven by the fact that people would want to build resilience into their healthcare systems and build fallback positions. Whereas you think of disaster recovery in compute, the notion of disaster recovery in healthcare is going to become, in my mind, some problem that people will have to start thinking about.
A lot of the education companies, including brick and mortar, were investing in online education and distance education, and in India primarily to impact more number of people, because there's only so many people you can hold in a classroom. And now they've seen phenomenal growth within the last couple of months, because everyone's at home and consuming. So that path seems to have accelerated.